The NFL draft may be over, but the drama between some of the top prospects is just getting started. Specifically, a recent comment from New York Giants quarterback Jackson Dart seems to have taken a subtle jab at Shedeur Sanders, adding another layer to their developing storyline. Before the draft, the Giants were reportedly interested in Sanders, but ultimately went in a different direction on day one, selecting Dart out of Ole Miss instead. Now, Dart's recent remarks about his pre-draft experience with the Giants coaching staff are raising some serious eyebrows. During an interview with Sports Illustrated, Dart reflected on meetings with head coach Brian Daboll. Known for his intensity, Dart stated, "You better be prepared going to do a Daboll meeting. Because it's intense. He definitely wants to get the most out of you." He then added, pointedly, "I would say, if you're not prepared, don't step into the meeting. Because you're going to get grilled." So they threw all that they could at me, and I was able to handle it the best way that I could. While Dart never directly mentioned Sanders by name, the connection is hard to ignore. Post-draft reports had already surfaced suggesting the Giants, along with several other teams, were disappointed with Sanders' interview performance during the draft process. So, the timing of Dart's "be prepared or get grilled" comments appears too convenient to ignore. Especially given the circumstances. This only adds fuel to the fire for Sanders. He entered the draft with impressive credentials from his 2024 campaign, throwing for over 4.100 yards and 37 touchdowns, earning Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year honors. Most projections had him landing within the top 10 selections. Yet, Sanders watched as team after team passed on him, ultimately sliding all the way to the 5th round, where the Cleveland Browns finally selected him with the 144th overall pick. That dramatic fall already positioned Sanders to enter the NFL with a chip on his shoulder. Now, with a direct shot from a quarterback selected ahead of him, that motivation is likely even higher. This budding rivalry could be one to watch as both rookies prepare for their first NFL season. Patrick Mahomes isn't just a quarterback, he's a phenomenon. Two-time MVP. Three-time Super Bowl champion, his legacy in Kansas City already screams louder than a sold-out stadium. But beyond the trophies and the on-field magic, Mahomes is also a massive brand in his own right. And that brand comes with a price tag that leaves every other NFL quarterback in the dust. Here's the fascinating part. Mahomes could easily be the highest-paid quarterback in the league annually. The Chiefs would likely hand him whatever he asked for. But that's not who he is. Time and again, he's restructured his contract to give the team more salary cap flexibility. Also, they can bring in more talent to help him win. His goal is simple: win Super Bowls. Not just big checks. Yet, when it comes to the checks, particularly off the field, he's in a class of his own. According to Forbes, Mahomes' net worth is approaching $90 million, making him the 18th highest paid athlete globally. A huge chunk of that comes from his off-field ventures, a staggering $28 million annually, which is the highest for any player in the NFL. Where does all that dough come from? Mahomes isn't just endorsing products, he's investing. He holds stakes in F1, MLS, MLB, and NWSL teams. He's got lucrative deals with giants like Adidas, Subway, Oakley, State Farm, T-Mobile, and Community America Credit Union. Add to that his ownership in multiple Whataburger franchises, and you've got the recipe for that $28 million magic potion. To put that into perspective, the two quarterbacks tied for second place in off-field earnings, Dak Prescott and Justin Herbert, pull in $10 million each, not even half of Mahomes' haul. Now, you might be thinking, if he's so rich, why isn't he the highest paid annually? And that's where it gets interesting. While Mahomes' total contract value is an astronomical $450 million, making him the top dog in overall deal size, his average annual salary of $45 million is actually less than some other top QBs. Dak Prescott currently reigns supreme annually at $60 million per year. Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Jordan Love, and Trevor Lawrence all come in second at $55 million. And if you're talking total guaranteed money, Josh Allen leads with $250 million. So, while Prescott and Allen might be winning in terms of yearly cash or guaranteed money, Nobody holds a candle to Mahomes' total contract value or his unparalleled off-field income. The Chiefs wouldn't deny him a bigger paycheck. But that's not his priority. He's already made more than most people make in a lifetime. And for Chiefs Kingdom, it's his heart and drive to win that truly makes him the richest guy in their world. The San Francisco 49ers just made a massive splash this week, signing quarterback Brock Purdy, their former Mr. Irrelevant, to a 5-year, $265 million extension. This deal averages $53 million per year, making him one of the highest-paid quarterbacks in the league. But not everyone believes this is good news for the Niners' Super Bowl aspirations. In fact, a Pro Bowl receiver from a division rival thinks this deal might have just closed their championship window. That receiver is Puka Nacua from the Los Angeles Rams. During an appearance on Julian Edelman's Games with Names podcast last month, Nacua was directly asked if he thought Purdy deserved a contract in the high $40 millions. His answer? I think mid-40s, but he didn't stop there. Nacua went on to say, and I quote, "They have a chance to still be in their window. And I think if he goes for a $50 million plus, then the window closes." Right? Now, Purdy's $53 million AAV actually comes in lower than what some market projections predicted, Spatrack. For example, estimated he could get closer to $60 million per year. His deal ties him as the 7th highest paid quarterback. Truth be told, getting over $50 million was always the going rate for a young, starting Pro Bowl quarterback coming off their rookie deal. So, why would Nacua, a division rival, make such a bold claim? He's likely questioning how the 49ers can possibly build and maintain an elite Super Bowl contending roster with their quarterback no longer on a dirt-cheap rookie deal. After all, the 49ers have already lost considerable talent this offseason, including Deebo Samuel via trade, along with key defenders like Talanoa Hufanga, Charvarius Ward, and Dre Greenlaw in free agency. Purdy's story is undoubtedly one of the most fascinating in NFL history, taking his team to the Super Bowl in his first full year as a starter. He even ranks first in NFL history in yards per attempt and passer rating among quarterbacks with over 1.000 attempts. But here's a crucial point. Purdy is 27-15 as a starter overall, including playoffs. But that record drops to 10-11 when any member of his Big Five, Christian McCaffrey, Trent Williams, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, or the now departed Deebo Samuel, isn't playing. There are now 11 quarterbacks making at least $51 million per year across the league, proving that a high-paid QB doesn't automatically sink a team's contention hopes. However, it does make life tougher for a general manager. The real question is Brock Purdy truly the engine driving this offense? Or is he simply the steering wheel guiding an all-pro luxury vehicle? If it's the latter, Nacua's warning about the 49ers' Super Bowl window might just be spot on. It started with a quiet visit, a man in a hoodie in a Honda pulling up to the Steelers facility, and the hopeful whispers that Aaron Rodgers was finally coming to Pittsburgh. But fast forward a month, and that hope is fading fast. Head coach Mike Tomlin's patience with Rodgers is officially running thin, and the Steelers are now actively looking for a replacement. Rodgers still hasn't signed, and the calendar is quickly becoming a critical factor. Mandatory minicamp begins on June 10th, and organized team activities are already underway. Every passing day means the Steelers are stuck in quarterback limbo, unable to fully plan around a player who hasn't committed, knowing full well that building chemistry now can determine wins later in the season. ESPN's Jeremy Fowler reported that while Rodgers is still Plan A, Kirk Cousins has emerged as a viable Plan B, and has definitely been on their radar. Cousins is fresh off a turbulent 2024 campaign with 16 interceptions for the Falcons. But despite signing a 4-year, $180 million deal in March, rumors suggest Atlanta might be open to parting ways after drafting Michael Penix. This makes Cousins a potential lifeline if Rodgers ultimately walks away. Steelers legend Ben Roethlisberger hasn't stayed quiet either, issuing a firm warning on his podcast if Pittsburgh starts 2025 with Mason Rudolph as the starter. It's a 7-10 season. But with Rodgers under center? Roethlisberger predicts 11-6. At least, this warning isn't just talk. Roethlisberger delivered the last Lombardi Trophy to Pittsburgh under Tomlin, and since then, Tomlin has posted consistent winning seasons but only one playoff victory since 2016. The pressure is mounting. Rodgers' situation isn't just about absence, it's about optics. Every delay complicates building trust with teammates and adapting to Arthur Smith's offense. If he suffers another injury like last year's torn Achilles, the fallout could derail Pittsburgh's entire season. Tomlin isn't known for tolerating distractions. And the message is clear: the Steelers won't wait forever. While Aaron Rodgers' personal situation, including his recent disclosure about several people close to him battling cancer, is respected, the NFL waits for no one. For Tomlin and Pittsburgh, their quarterback future might have to be decided in the next 2 weeks. When the Cleveland Browns selected Shedeur Sanders in the 5th round of the 2025 NFL Draft, it raised more than a few eyebrows. Pre-draft questions about Sanders' ability and character had caused him to plummet much further than anyone expected. But now, just a month after the draft, the Browns are likely feeling pretty good about that decision. Head coach Kevin Stefanski had nothing but glowing remarks when asked about how Sanders has adjusted to the NFL so far. "He's in there early. He's getting his work done. He's working really, really hard," Stefanski told ESPN Cleveland. He emphatically added, "I like everything there is about Shedeur." While Stefanski also complimented other Browns rookies, his praise for Sanders could carry extra weight. Given the team's quarterback depth chart, the Browns brought in veterans Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett during the offseason. But neither presents an insurmountable challenge if Sanders lives up to his most optimistic scouting reports. At 40, Flacco is clearly at the tail end of his career. And Pickett, despite being a former first-round pick, hasn't yet lived up to those expectations. The biggest barrier to Sanders securing a starting role might actually come from within his own rookie class, Dillon Gabriel, whom the Browns selected in the 3rd round. Both their performances will undoubtedly be under intense scrutiny during training camp and the preseason. It's important to remember that few 5th-round picks are elevated into starting roles on day one. So if Sanders doesn't immediately secure the job, that's not a bad sign. However, these early returns are sounding incredibly promising. Stefanski's comments seem to strongly indicate that much of the negative chatter surrounding Sanders prior to the draft was simply overblown. If Sanders can continue to refute that narrative while showcasing the on-field skills that once made him a highly ranked prospect, the Cleveland Browns could very well have landed one of the biggest steals of the 2025 NFL Draft. The Aaron Rodgers saga with the Pittsburgh Steelers has been a slow burn. But now, a former Steelers legend is absolutely letting loose on the situation. While current players and even head coach Mike Tomlin have shown public patience, one Super Bowl champion from the Steelers' past says his teams wouldn't have tolerated this for a second. That's former Steelers safety Mike Logan, who offered a scorching take on the Caboli and Mack program. Speaking about Rodgers' ongoing delay to sign, Logan bluntly stated, "These teams are a little different than what we had. We wouldn't have tolerated this. We would have been like, yo, you coming or not?" He even went further, painting a vivid picture. "Can you imagine Joey Porter? If Joey Porter's sitting there in the locker room and we don't got no quarterback and we're trying to figure out, bro, he might have seen this dude out in Vegas and punched him in the face or something." Logan's fiery comments stand in stark contrast to the more measured tones from current Steelers. While team captain Cameron Hayward initially hinted at impatience by saying, "You want to be a Pittsburgh Steeler or you don't," he later clarified his remarks. Even pass rusher Alex Highsmith recently noted that he and his teammates would be really excited to have Rodgers if he eventually joins the club. However, Logan's words serve as a raw reminder that some players, particularly veterans, might not love the fact that current QB1 Mason Rudolph is learning offensive coordinator Arthur Smith's scheme while Rodgers is still nowhere to be seen. Pittsburgh's mandatory minicamp doesn't even kick off until June 10th. But history shows that starting quarterbacks are almost always active participants in voluntary springtime workouts. Logan's frustration is clear: we wouldn't have tolerated that, even if he does have a handshake agreement with the front office about when he's coming. Why keep it behind closed doors and why keep it under wraps? While there's no indication that head coach Mike Tomlin feels as strongly as Logan, It certainly makes you wonder if Tomlin needs to convince some of his players that giving Rodgers so much time to finalize a decision will genuinely be the best thing for the 2025 Steelers. For a franchise built on grit and directness, this extended quarterback limbo is definitely testing the limits of patience within the locker room.